So I got a couple things, right? But let's do this. Google. If you didn't know, the United States government is suing Google, or I guess Google, but Alphabet is the parent company. Google is their subsidiary of Alphabet, right? But Google's the big name. Google's the word we all know. So the government's suing Google for antitrust, basically monopoly, right? And depending on how you look at it, I kind of see, like, I went into it in depth about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. Like, they kind of do have a monopoly, but it's kind of by default, right? They got in right when the internet was taking off. And yes, there are competitors, but nobody uses the competitors. Nobody's service is better than Google. And my opinion is, we're going to get into the news, but my opinion is, real quick, like, what else do you want them to do? Of course they're going to grow. Of course they're going to try to, they're a publicly traded company. They have shareholders. They have a board of directors. They have certain projections every single year, every single quarter. Their projected growth. They're trying to beat that, to outperform those projections, sort of like what NVIDIA has done. So, as a company, right, the USA is all about big business, right? You want to do business, you either do business with the USA. If you're not in the United States, right, you want to do big business, get in bed with the USA as far as business is concerned, whether it's trading, wholesale, shipping, anything, any industry. So the U.S. encourages big business, right? But then, oh no, if you get too big, we will split you up. Which, look, again, everybody's got their own opinion, but I think that's kind of fugazi to a certain extent, right? If you really, really corner the market and there's literally zero competition, I get it. I know maybe few. I know a couple people, or one person that uses Bing. I know one person that still has a Yahoo account. It's there, right? It's there if you're going to use it. It's there if you don't like Google. There is another option, using Gmail or using some other services. But what do you expect? It's big business right now. You see the United States going after Apple. They just filed antitrust versus Apple a few weeks ago. And they've gone after Microsoft in the past. They've gone after these big tech companies. I tend to lean towards the big business. I'll let them do business, right? Now, I think the tax of these big companies needs to be revamped. I think they need to be taxed more than the citizens do, right? But that's a whole nother story. But as far as antitrust, as far as monopoly, I don't agree with the government. But this case took a very interesting turn. And as I write, yes, I do write these articles, Google will not have jury trial in the antitrust lawsuit filed by the U.S. government. Reuters, reputable media publication, reported that the search engine giant has paid back the full amount of damages sought by the Justice Department in the lawsuit. So not only was the U.S. government filed an antitrust lawsuit, i.e. a monopoly case against Google, they also fined Google, right? Now, $2.3 million is pocket change for them. It's like it'd be like for me or you finding a couple pennies in their pocket, literally. Or maybe less than that. Maybe a peso. Maybe a peso. In fact, it would be a peso. Mexican peso. I think it's like a twelfth of $1. Anyways, you get the idea. So not only did they file a antitrust lawsuit, monopoly lawsuit against Google, they also fined Google. Now, Google went ahead and paid the fine. All right, I said, fine, here's you take $2.3 million. I don't know why it took so long. I would have done this like in the first day, but you got to get all the lawyers involved. Oh God, there's huge numbers of lawyers involved on Google, on both sides, really. But Google paid back the damages sought by the Justice Department to avoid, here's the key, to avoid a jury trial. Right? So both sides are going to plead their case. The U.S. Attorney's Office, the prosecutor for the United States government, is going to plead their case, right? They would have to a jury of why Google is a monopoly, basically. And Google would have to defend themselves as the defendant and their lawyers and say, basically explain what I did to start this topic off, saying how they're not. Look, there is competition. If you don't want to use Google, you don't have to. There's Bing. There's now DuckDuckGo. There's Yahoo. Shit, even Apple, even though Google's another side of the story. Google is the default search engine on Apple, but you don't have to use them if you don't want to on your iPhone, right? So there's the Google's attorneys would plead their case of why they're not a monopoly, but they would have but before today or before Friday they would have to plead their case to a jury, and then the jury would step aside, convey for however long, and debate and come to some agreement and have to decide if Google is a monopoly or if they're not a monopoly. Now, since Google paid this $2.3 million fine, now a judge, one person, will decide the case. So the antitrust lawsuit filed by the Department of Justice in 8 states of the United States sought to break the search engine giant's alleged ad tech monopoly. The Department of Justice sought damages in the lawsuit and demanded a jury trial. However, Reuters reports that there will be no jury trial because Google has provided a copy of a check for $2.3 million. This would be enough to cover 3 times the damages sought by the government, including interest if necessary. It's worth noting, though, the U.S. government initially sought more than $100 million in damages in this case. However, the Department of Justice later asked for less than $1 million in damages. I have no idea. As it sought a jury trial. Google is said to have paid the damages without admitting any liability or wrongdoing, right? They're not saying, hey, they're not pleading guilty. They're not pleading in their innocence, not even no contest. They're simply just paying the fine, basically not to admit guilt, but to rather have a judge decide the case rather than 12 jurors, right? The company said in a statement on Friday that the trumped-up damages claim has collapsed, and reports added that the lawsuit is a baseless attempt to pick a winners and losers in a high competitive industry. A single judge hearing is scheduled for September 9th. Damn, it's 3 months away. By U.S. District Judge Lonnie Brinkema in Alexandria, Virginia, ruled in the case on Friday. She's currently scheduled for a single judge trial without a jury on September 9th. She will hear arguments from both parties in person and further decide on the case. This is interesting because I'm not claiming anything. I'm just simply this is the first thought that went through my head. It's a lot easier to pay off one person than it is 12 people. Right? It's a lot easier to keep the mouths shut if it's just one mouth compared to 12 mouths. I'm not saying anything, but Google slides a little $20 million in a offshore account or in crypto to the judge's, I don't know, niece or somebody close to her that can funnel the money back to. Look, I don't know. I'm just saying. And even that's probably not the case because they would get obviously big time in trouble. But you know what I'm saying? It's easier to sway. It's easier to convince one person than it is 12. That's just a fact of the matter. So this is a very strategic move by Google to pay the fine, to end the jury trial and go to a judge decision only. So that'll get started in 3 months from now. I'm going to keep track of this. This is a very interesting topic, and it will affect, even though you might not think it will. I'm not going to say it's going to affect your life. It's going to change your life on this decision is going to change your life. No, it's not. But you will see the effects of this somehow, some way in your life. Whether it affects you or not, who cares? But you will physically see changes depending on this outcome. If the government makes Google liable of these charges, then you're going to see major changes in the way Google search is performed and the advertisements and how Google runs advertisements, which means how you see advertisements on your phone, on your computer, even in applications. So it will not necessarily affect you, but you will see some change. Now, if they're held liable, you will definitely see changes. If Google's not held liable, they'll continue on running business as usual. In my opinion, I do not see them liable. Are they 100% scot-free? Not really. I used to run Google Ads, and I stopped doing that for other reasons, but it is what it is, right? So I will keep you all updated on the latest events here with Google versus the United States, but a very interesting turn, and I think it was a good strategic move by the firm behind that's defending Google. I think this is a good strategy. And look, I have no idea who the judge is. The lawyers know, every judge by the book know how they look. There's an analytics site in sports, right? Basketball, football. Guess what? There's analytics in law, right? In the court. They know what judges have had. There's all sorts of stuff. So if the lawyers looked up these statistics, oh well, yeah, she tends to judge a little, going by the numbers. They obviously thought this was the best way, the highest probability to get a good outcome for Google is to bypass the 12 jurors and go straight to one person. I probably would have done that too. I didn't know that was an option, but I definitely would have done that, and I think it's a smart move. But you got 3 months to go, and we will see where this goes, right? So stay tuned to eSIM Studios if you're interested in this. Even if you're not, it is nice to have some sort of idea of what's going on behind the scenes, even some clarity. Look, I don't cover this extensively. I'm not outside the courthouse with a microphone and cameraman like some other news media outlets, but I will bring you the gist of